Hello guys, this is Y and Travel with Nick and Yana, and today we're taking you on a whirlwind tour of our spring trip through Kyoto, Nara and Kobe. Now, a quick heads up, we came expecting to be serenaded by sakura blossoms, but the flowers had other plans. No pink petals, no serene cherry blossoms, just us, our packed itinerary, and a whole lot of exploring to do. Despite the lack of floral magic, we had one epic trip filled with iconic temples, roaming deer, mouth-watering food, and more than a few surprises along the way. So, let's get started. We kicked off our adventure at Umeda Station in Osaka, also known as the place where dreams of understanding a train station go to die. This place isn't just a station, it's an underground labyrinth designed to make you feel like a lost soul in a city of escalators and retail stores. And from Umeda Station we went straight to Kyoto Station. It took us around an hour, and of course Kyoto Station is the gateway to Japan's ancient capital, well, Kyoto, but also a monument to modern architecture attempt to confuse travelers. It's like they built a massive glass and steel structure that looks like an airport, but surprise, it's a train station. With its shiny surfaces and futuristic vibes, you almost forget that you are here to visit actual temples. And from Kyoto Station we went straight to Fushimi Inari, and on our way just at the foot of Fushimi Inari we actually stumbled upon a very nice food court where we decided to have our breakfast. And Wagyu steak curry, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, who even knew a curry could ascend to god tier status? And to be honest, Japanese curry is already a god tier status, but Wagyu beef makes it even better. Every bite was a tender, savory reminder of how poorly my diet back home treats me. The Wagyu was so good it felt like it melted in my mouth, just like my willpower to resist ordering more. If you ever find yourself in Kyoto, skip the ramen and sushi, this Wagyu curry is the real deal.
Pretty good taste.
Emotional damage!
And finally we came to Fushimi Inari and its Fushimi Inari red torii gates. Iconic, stunning, and yes, absolutely never ending. And these gates are like the Instagram filter of Kyoto. Every photo looks perfect, but the reality is that there's a lot of sweating and wondering how many more steps there could possibly be. And by the time we reached the midpoint, I was reconsidering my life choices, and a lot of philosophical questions came to my mind, like what did I do to deserve this, or is there anything after death, or why did Sabo get the flame fruit and not Sanji? You know, all those questions that never will be answered in our lifetime. But hey, that didn't stop us from taking a million photos to prove that we enjoyed it. And by the way, a quick tip: when you come to Red Torii Gates at Fushimi Inari, you will see that there's like a lot of people, and it's almost impossible to make a nice photo or a nice video there. You can see that there's like thousands of people just going both ways. But actually, if you go a little bit further, maybe 10 minutes up the hill, 20 minutes up the hill, it becomes less and less crowded. And if you dare to go to the very top, there will be same torii gates because there's thousands of them, but closer to the top, there's almost no people, and you can take all the photos you want, you can also enjoy the view. So don't get discouraged when you come to Fushimi Inari and see crowds and crowds of people. It will get much better the more you go. Just keep on it. And of course, because climbing a mountain of gates wasn't enough, we decided to tackle the actual Fushimi Inari shrine and make it to the top. What a great idea, right? Climbing all those stairs with zero athletic preparation. But the view at the top, totally worth it. And I also got the chance to pray at the shrine at the very top, and yeah, I think that's pretty good. Or at least that's what I keep telling myself. And after hiking back down from the Fushimi Inari, we decided to take a bus and go to Kinkaku-ji, the Golden Pavilion. The temple that looks stunning in every guidebook and even shinier in your Instagram feed. In reality, it's kind of like when you order something online and it looks slightly, cheaper in person. Don't get me wrong, it's still gold, just not holy wow gold, More like, is that a painted plastic kind of gold? And the crowds, oh boy, the crowds. Well, there's a lot of people. There's like children screaming, dogs are barking, people are, just being noisy all the time. So it's not that enlightening and tranquil experience that I imagine it would be. Because there's like you and 1,000 of your closest strangers all packed in like sardines, taking the exact same photo from the exact same spot. But hey, it's iconic. So I did what everyone else did, took 50 photos and called it a day. And after Kinkaku-ji, we decided to get some lunch, and to save time, we just went to the trusty kombini. And Yana went for a classic teriyaki chicken sandwich, and I, being the adventurous soul that I am, opted for a spicy kodro onigiri. And actually it was not that spicy. It was actually not spicy at all. But hey, kombini food in Japan is basically like a cheat code. Affordable, delicious, and weirdly satisfying. If you haven't fallen in love with Japan's kombini culture yet, you're definitely missing out. It's like fast food, but it won't make you hate yourself afterwards. And after that, we went to Arashiyama bamboo forest, where you feel both incredibly small and also like you walk straight into a screensaver. It's peaceful, sure, if you can ignore the 10,000 other tourists trying to get their perfect selfie shot as well. Walking through those towering bamboo stalks feels completely surreal. But let's be honest, after about 15 minutes, it's just a bunch of tall green sticks. Still, it's impressive to experience nature's version of a cathedral. And fun fact, bamboo grows super fast, so the forest could probably regenerate quicker than my patience for crowds. After Arashiyama bamboo forest, we decided to go back to the city, and to get there we used Randen line trams. And well, first of all, Randen is a sick name for a tramway because it basically means storm of electricity or like electric storm. And these trams aren't your sleek high-speed bullet trains, of course. They're slow, charming and full of character. If you want to feel like you're riding a toy train through Kyoto suburbs, this is the way to go. It's like stepping into a slice of retro Japan, where time slows down and you're not worried about missing anything. And eventually, by the time it was evening, we came to Gion Street. And Gion is the famous geisha district in Kyoto, the place where you expect to find grace, elegance, and piece of Kyoto's old world charm. What we found? Well, we found a tourist central again, because Gion has been overrun by so many visitors that most of the streets were blocked off, and actually for a good reason. People literally harass geishas for photos. And to be honest, when I read this, I was like, guys, like what the hell? I mean, like if I would meet a geisha on the street, I would probably just, I don't know. For me it would be like meeting a celebrity. I wouldn't even dare to take a photo, and people are just harassing them. Like, that's completely unacceptable. I am ashamed being a tourist, being a part of tourist culture, because people just like me basically doing that. So yeah, don't do this. Be very respectful, especially to geishas. These people are awesome. At the same time, don't get me wrong, Gion still has its moments of beauty. It's very tranquil, it's very nice, but you'll have to squint past the tourists posing for selfies, and there's like huge lines to every goddamn restaurant on that street. But yeah, at least we can say we tried, right? And as a conclusion for Kyoto, what I would say is that it is of course a beautiful city that is very badly damaged by over-tourism, and I hope that at some point this ends, because right now there's basically like a tourism fever in Japan, because Japan was closed off during COVID times for like maybe 2 or even 3 years, so nobody could get in. So right now a lot of people they rush to Japan to see all the most famous tourist sites. Kyoto was not as good as I think it would be, but it's not the problem of the city, it's the problem of the age we live in, basically. I think if you give it maybe a couple of years, that tourism fever dies down and we get back to like normal numbers of tourism in Japan, I think it would be much better. Because for now, the result of all this is that the locals in Kyoto, they really, you can feel that they are very annoyed by all of the tourists. And there's really a lot of people everywhere. At any place you go, there are thousands of people. Everywhere is very noisy. Like, it's not how I imagined I would visit Kinkaku-ji. I would think that I would be, able to relax a bit, gaze on Kinkaku-ji, think about life. But in the end, what we did was like just a quick 25-minute stroll around the Kinkaku-ji, and we just get the hell out of there because there's just too many people. So yeah, unfortunately, not the greatest experience, but at the same time, you can feel all the history, you can feel the tradition, the old world Japan. So yeah, it was a good experience, even though not 100% of it was that good or what we expected in the first place. And the next day we went to Nara, the city where deer roam free, and so do the tourists. Although, let's be real, the deer are way cooler. And to be honest, Nara got this chill vibe, like Kyoto's laid-back cousin who lets animals take over the city, And Nara is all about blending nature with history, but mostly it's all about trying to not get mugged by deer for the snacks. And of course we couldn't resist from feeding the deer, because basically that's the main attraction of the city. And yeah, well, these adorable creatures bit me, not once but multiple times, because apparently I wasn't feeding them fast enough. They tried to nibble on my belly. Yana of course found it hilarious, but then again, when she was feeding a deer, one of the deer were so scared they basically pissed themselves, so that was hilarious as well. So we both had our moments in that. The only thing is that we came quite early. I think we were in Nara at around maybe 9 or 10 a.m. And at that time, when it's morning, deer are actually quite hungry, so they come to you, you can feed them all you want. But after that, when we were already coming back from sightseeing, it was maybe around 1 to 2 p.m. Most of the deer, they would just lie in the shadows of the trees, resting. And we saw a lot of people, they were trying to feed them snacks, but they just don't want because they're so full. So if you want feeding experience, make sure to come early, because by the time it's noon, thousands of people would feed all the deer and they would be full and they would just relax, looking cute, but they will probably not accept food. And in the middle of the feeding frenzy, we also stopped for some food, and we decided to go for Dai Wagyu ramen, which is, well, ramen with Wagyu beef in it. It was quite expensive, but the ramen was definitely rich, creamy, and absolutely delicious. And of course it's a bit pricey because it's also a tourist spot. Well, the Wagyu in that ramen was like, I don't know, I'm not an expert on Wagyu, but it was like pretty Wagyu-ish, I would say. But it was a really good bowl of ramen. Broth was very rich, everything was good, and if you want to feel like a ramen connoisseur for a day, just go for it. And actually also just near the Dai Wagyu ramen place, there's also a cool little shop called Mahoroba Daibutsu Pudding. And basically they have this like Buddha image and they produce pudding, which is supposed to be very tasty, but we didn't really get the pudding, but we got their soft cream, which is another name for ice cream in Japan. They call it soft cream, I don't know why. And after that we rolled up to Todaiji Nandaimon, the massive wooden gate leading to one of Japan's most iconic temples. And well, to be honest, this gate was much cooler than I thought. It's just so massively big, and when you come near that gate, you can actually see that it's ancient and you can feel, the history going through you. The ancient ancientness of everything. It's just so cool. It's one of the coolest gates I've seen so far in Japan, and I've seen a lot, and most of them are quite the same. But yeah, we didn't go to the actual temple because there was like a 50 to 100 meter line just to get inside, and yeah, no thanks. I mean, it's cool to see the gate and all, but the thought of waiting for another hour to just get inside, nah. We decided to admire the architecture from a distance. Plus, I'm pretty sure Buddha would understand that I wasn't in the mood for long lines that day. He will forgive me. And after that, we actually decided to just go through the city, and we stumbled upon, completely by accident by the way, I didn't know that this place is super famous, but we stumbled upon Nakatani-do Mochi, and it is actually a must-visit place in Nara. There you can see mochi made fresh, warm and made fast. And these guys pound the rice dough like it owes them money. And the result? Well, soft, chewy mochi that's basically a little piece of heaven. We stood in line for a while, but let me tell you, it was worth it. Really, I don't really like mochi, like it's not something that I crave if we are talking about all the desserts that you can find in Japan, but I can eat them sometimes, and those were, I think, the softest, the tastiest mochi I've eaten. And of course, if you can, watch the mochi pounding show, because they do it maybe a couple of times a day. We didn't see it because they were already finished at that time. We could just buy the stuff. But if you stumble upon them actually doing the show, just make sure to see it. It's like a high-speed culinary performance and experience. And after that, we actually found ourselves in Naramachi, which is the old town of Nara. It's got that traditional vibe that makes you feel like you're stepped back in time. Narrow streets, wooden buildings, and shops selling everything from handmade crafts to local snacks. It's one of those places where you can just wander around and soak up the atmosphere, and that's exactly what we did, especially after Kyoto that was like overcrowded with tourists. This was the real experience that we actually wanted to feel in Kyoto, so this was very cool. And since we were in Naramachi, we also decided to visit Harushika Brewery, where sake tasting turns into a full-blown spiritual experience. We sampled some of their finest sake, and let me just say, we have no experience with sake whatsoever, but they took their time to explain which sake is made from which ingredient, what is the difference. They have everything, they explain in Japanese, they can explain in English, they have the brochures. So it was like very nice experience, and you get to know more about sake itself. And we actually ended up buying a bottle of sake with a very peculiar taste, and taste was a smoked cheese. I don't know how they did this, but it was so surprising. So we just bought a bottle. Well, after that much sake, everything seems like a good idea.
Already bought something.
Sake. We bought sake that tastes like smoked cheese. I'm drunk. And after all that sake, it only made sense to balance things out with a little craft beer. And Naramachi Craft Beer Restaurant served up some of the most interesting brews I've had in Japan. The beer was quite spicy, and by spicy I mean it wasn't hot, it had a lot of spices in it. So it was definitely interesting, and the snacks were on point too. And overall, it's just a chill place, perfect for winding down after a day of walking, feeding deer, sightseeing, watching immensely ancient temples. So yeah, if you're in the area and you want to try something a little different, this place is definitely worth checking out. The only drawback that I think is that I really wanted to buy some of that spicy beer to take back to hotel or take back home, but they just don't sell it. They have their standard brews that you can buy, you can also order online, but those particular like seasonal brews, they only sell at the spot, which is cool, but at the same time a bit upsetting, because I really think about that beer sometimes. It was very good. And next day we went to Kobe, and of course Kobe city is famous for its beef, but Trust me, we'll get to that later. The city itself is cool, laid back, and surprisingly easy to navigate. It's got a modern feel, but there are still little pockets of history scattered around. We didn't have a ton of time here, but Kobe definitely gave us the kind of vibe where you could chill for a week and still find something new to discover. Definitely a city I would return to, or maybe even leave. It really looked like Yokohama, but smaller and maybe a bit more chill. So first things first, we took the ropeway up to Nonobiki Garden, because after days of walking, the thought of hiking uphill made my legs scream nope. So yeah, we decided to take the ropeway, and the ropeway was actually pretty cool. And Nonobiki Garden is one of those places where you can wander around and pretend you're in some fancy botanical movie set. Flowers, fountains, and the fresh mountain air. We didn't spend too long here, but it was enough to make me appreciate that someone had thought to install a ropeway. Walking? Totally overrated. And of course, when you're in a beautiful garden, what better way to top it off than with some strawberries dipped in chocolate. Yeah, that's right. We found ourselves in the cafe at Nonobiki Garden, indulging in what I can only describe as a fancy dessert experience. Fresh strawberries, rich chocolate. It was the kind of snack that makes you forget all about your diet. Yana and I enjoyed every bite, and for a few moments, life was perfect. And remember how I said that walking was overrated? Well, from the garden we decided to be brave and walk down to Nonobikime Falls, which was actually pretty nice. Calm walk after days of temple stairs and deer attack. The waterfall itself was gorgeous, nothing too massive, but just the right amount of peaceful. It felt like one of those hidden gems that not many tourists bother with, which made it all more special. There was really not a lot of people, and to my surprise, it was actually just maybe 10 minutes away from the nearest subway station. And you know, the comprehension of the fact that there is a waterfall just behind a subway station in the city is actually cool, and that's what makes Kobe special. And after that we just walked through the Kobe itself, just enjoying the view. And eventually we came to Kobe port, and well, now for the highlight of this trip, or so we thought, which is Kobe beef. And we decided to go to a restaurant called Ryu and Wagyu. And I had been looking forward to this meal for months because I haven't really tried like a proper Wagyu beef, and honestly expected a life-changing experience. And you know what? It was fine. Don't get me wrong, the beef was good, but not for that price. It was like 10,000 yen for the set, and let's just say I've had better steaks back home for half the cost, or maybe for 90% of the cost. Maybe my expectations were too high, I don't know, or maybe Kobe beef is just overhyped. Either way, I left the restaurant feeling like my wallet had taken a bigger hit than my taste buds, you know. So sometimes the hype doesn't live up to reality. So I'm sorry. Or maybe we just went into the tourist trap, I don't know. Maybe we just went to the wrong place. So if you know a very good Wagyu beef place in Kobe and you're watching this video, just make sure to get some good insights in the comments. And next time we are in Kobe, we'll definitely go there and we'll let you know if it's properly good as Kobe beef should be. So yeah, that's our trip through Kyoto, Nara and Kobe. 3 cities, a ton of walking, a few deer bites and one overpriced steak later. And it wasn't the sakura-filled wonderland we hoped for, of course, but hey, we made the best of it, I think. And from climbing torii gates to dodging tourist crowds to being sad about Kyoto not being as magical as I wanted it to be, we still had a blast of a time. Because Japan never fails to surprise, and even without the cherry blossoms, it was an adventure worth every step. Would we do it again? Absolutely. Just maybe with actual sakura blossoms. Next time, next year. So yeah, thank you guys for watching this video, and if you haven't already, just click that like button, subscribe, leave a comment. It helps a lot, it gives us a lot of motivation. And yeah, catch you later at the next trip. Cheers!